to the 2002 Ford Focus SES with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, air conditioning issues. Right there we are looking at the connection for the AC clutch. That's the pulley, that's the clutch that pulls into it. Right there, that plug was not receiving power from the system, is the reason the entire dash was pulled apart to verify what kind of wiring it had. So I unplugged that and lifted that wire up here, and I checked. The black wire in there had continuity to ground. With the engine key, everything off, I also checked a green wire with a yellow line on it. That one is the hot wire that's supposed to get positive from the system and was not. I do believe it may be the same green wire with yellow right there on the low pressure switch. That's probably supposed to get power from the darker green with the red right there. That was not getting power from the system. So what I did, I took and put from the back side of that plug with it up in the air there. Where are we at again? Okay, right there. The back side of that particular plug, I stuck a probe in there. It was actually an old prong out of a different old connector. Slid it right in beside the green wire with the yellow stripe all the way up inside. Then connected it over to the positive. I was able to get power there, so I taped it up to make sure it couldn't touch on anything. Then I plugged in to the clutch coil right there, and the clutch itself engaged against the pulley. So then I went ahead, got the car jacked up, yanked the tire off, took the screws and little push-in grommets out. Little screw here. The push-in grommets often mess up. They're the plastic junk. So one of them has already been replaced with a self-drilling screw. I may do the same here. This took a 7mm socket on that little screw. This used to be connected where you'd have to use, that looks like a T30 Torx. Obviously it's not anymore. It's damaged. Other people worked on here and tore it up worse than I am. This is supposed to have a screw-on cap. It doesn't. Right here on your accumulator, which is also called a receiver dryer on some vehicles, is your low pressure port. I have before removed the headlight assembly to get to this, but maybe, see if I can get to the right spot. I think maybe you can see that screw right there. Yeah, that goes through. I had to force my arm underneath and got it all tore up trying to get a ratchet in there. It's not worth the trouble. Either turn the tire, jack the thing up, turn the tire far to the left, or just get it completely pulled off out of the way to get to that service port. Let me get back up. Oh, make sure to use a jack stand for your safety, especially if you jack in a place that it might slip. As a reminder, when you put back on with aluminum rims, please make sure to put a torque wrench so you don't over torque them and so they're evenly. You do not want to over torque and warp a rotor or damage an aluminum rim, and that's just as good as well to do with a steel rim. I had hooked up low pressure connection right here on this Ford. I'm standing directly in front of the driver's seat. As you can see, the left hand side of the grille. Right there's a high pressure port. I hooked up the refrigerant. I already had the can of dye sucked in there before after pulling a vacuum on the system in order to find where a leak is, because I don't have nitrogen to pressure test. Okay, then only opened the low pressure side valve to let the refrigerant into, skip the step. Once you got it fully connected, all fittings tight. With the new style cans, they come with a little valve spring loaded in there, so the proper can tap is flat tip on its rod, and it just pushes that open. The old ones had a pointed tip, so they'd punch a hole in the top of the metal can. Those don't work worth a flip to open these cans. You'll end up buying another if you don't have one or the other, but get it, you know, all connected snug. Before ever opening this, barely crack it open and let the air out in order to let the moisture out. Just a teeny bit of refrigerant, that's all, no more. Then let it go in by itself. Then started to turn on the key, turn the blower on high, started the car, put it to recirculate, so to be circulating the inside air, so it'll get the maximum cooling possibility instead of sucking in hot outside air. Thankfully, once it got going with that jumpered, I was able to pull my little jumper wire out of my pigtail there into the clutch. It was operating the engine fans on and off like it was supposed to, under control of the high pressure switch that is down there in front of the accumulator and below the headlight. Pretty much you gotta get past the tire to get to it also. And then finally got enough, one can in this system. I forget the specific, I think it's supposed to hold 18 ounces according to some information. The cans are 12 ounces, so this one's still roughly half full. It should have got to 30 psi on the low side, about 300 on the high side. I got a little bit too much. It was above, just trying to watch and shut it off when I had enough, and then shut this off and everything. We run up the RPM a little bit to get it to drop down as low as it's going to go to disconnect this so there's low pressure as possible in the hose. Then turn the switch off in the cab to let the clutch shut off, let the system equalize. It had dropped down to about 100, 110, and then disconnected from the high side port. Only while vacuuming a system do you open the high side. You do not want to have that 300 to 350 psi blowing through here out into a can and blowing body parts off. That's about it. Thankfully, for the moment, this thing is actually working. It only got down to 60. I don't have time to see if it got lower. It's all disconnected. This is still full. With this valve back out, that's closed valve inside, but I'm going to leave this together because there's refrigerant in this hose still. I don't want to lose it. And if that don't seal perfectly, I don't want to lose it either. Thanks for watching this CWR news and clues, for some clues on this frustrating Fords. And the previous video was on the non-existent AC evaporator thermistor, or evaporator temperature switch, that is supposedly up under the dash behind the firewall there. This particular one of this year model doesn't have it. Supposedly some of the same year model do. So, thank you.